So back on May 8th of 2023, I shared this forecast on the QQQ ETF with my tribe. And it was for the QQQ ETF to trade up into 345.89 by May 30th. You can see the forecast was met, hit on the nose. There was a little bit of an overshoot to the upside, and what I'm going to do is provide an update here for where I see things going next. So if you're new here, I'm Hema Reddy, and I use price, time, like you see here, and momentum to boost my trading and that of my tribes. Now, in order for me to do a complete analysis on this particular set of charts that I haven't physically touched in a while, I'm actually going to go to a bigger time frame. So that bigger time frame is the monthly Nasdaq chart in my bottom left screen. You can see here that we cleared the high from August of 2022. The next resistance that is sort of waiting out there big time is the high from April of 2022. We have been lifting off of the March low, and now last month's low on the monthly chart becomes a support. Okay, so keeping in mind these two levels, I'm going to move to the weekly chart. So I'm just going to minimize back down, maximize my weekly chart. Here you can see that we are heading higher, potentially into this price high from back on May 1st, the week ending May 1st. And those of you who have the 4 zones RSI coverage system, you know exactly how I'm determining support and resistance here. And we're going to combine it with RSI power zones down below to get the most out of the markets. Again, it's always good to use at least 2 of the 3 trifecta techniques at one time. So here I'm talking about price and momentum. On the momentum front, the RSI power zones are continuing to trend higher. They are in this space that's called no man's land between the bull resistance power zone and the bear resistance power zone. So no really new information except an expectation that on the balance, things will continue higher. It's on the daily chart though that we'll really be able to refine down and see where we're headed next. So I'm minimizing the weekly chart and opening up the daily chart. I know it's kind of messy, kind of lots going on, but I want to show you how a real analyst takes an old chart, if you will, one that was touched 3 weeks ago, and then updates it for current market conditions, as opposed to me pausing the screen and doing all the analysis on my own and coming back with a clean new chart. So picking up on where I left off on this chart, we went through these blue horizontal line resistance levels, came into the forecast. So I'm just going to make this a bit more transparent so it's easier to see. And now we have new resistance up ahead. So I'm going to delete any annotations that are no longer serving us here, that are kind of just taking up memory space here on my chart. And going to lay out some resistance levels first. So you take the current price action and you just bring your eyeballs all the way back on the blank space when you're in a situation like this, where there's old price history to relate to, but it's not quite close to the current time of the market. I'm going to, what I call, recycle one of these blue lines here and bring it to the next resistance level that I see up ahead. So it's this high from the day of April 7, 2022. Beyond that, is the low, the pre-gap low from April 5th. Beyond that is a lower price high from April 4th. And then of course there was the bigger picture monthly and weekly resistance level. All right, so I've got my 4 resistance levels up ahead. As for support, now I'm going to come into the more recent price action so that it's easier to analyze and to share the screen with you. Again, the forecast hit on the nose. I'm just making the lines more transparent so that it's easier to study, right? Again, I shared this on May 8th. So if we give May 8th a anchor here with this gray vertical line, the forecast was to trade up and to the right into May 30th, and this price 345.89 hit perfectly. Now, if we want to look at the most important support levels that are nearby currently, starts with the most recent price low. That's price with a capital P. Then comes into a price low before that. And then the other levels that I have drawn in this chart can still stay intact. In addition, I'm going to add an old top, 338.67. All right, now that I have gotten all my support and resistance up to date, I'm going to take just another moment here to see if there is a new forecast that may be unfolding. If so, I will draw that on my own and then come back with the forecast. All right, so I just did 2 advanced forecast techniques, removed them from the chart because they kind of gave me the information I need. And with you not necessarily having the full education and understanding them, seeing those annotations would probably just confuse you. But I'm going to tell you what they told me as a result. What I saw is that there is room for us to continue correcting lower after reaching the forecasted time for a price high to form. And so far, with today's bar not being complete, so far we do have a price high in motion, right? A high, a higher high, and then a lower high. However, it's too soon to draw a forecast that is fully confirmed for how far down we may correct from here. We can just use them as starting guidelines. What's more valuable is looking at price action and lines we can draw on that. So I'm just drawing this for the first time here. I don't know if this line is going to hold its weight, okay? But I'm just kind of getting back to my usual settings, snapping the line to actually touch the price action. And here is one line. And then here is another line. The technique I'm using now is called fanning trend lines, okay? What we're doing is trying to sort of gauge the pace of the current move higher from April 25th. So with these fanning trend lines in place, here is what I see is likely to unfold. On the balance, over the next couple weeks, I see the QQQ ETF staying higher at these elevated levels, perhaps even continuing higher into 356.35 or 359.93. That's my likely scenario. That's what I think is likely to happen. However, if it corrects further than what's currently doing, okay, if it pulls back more significantly, then I would watch this old top at 338.67 along with this second line in the fan trend lines as a primary area for support. Essentially, the current debt ceiling debate, drama, debacle, whatever you want to call it, is creating some market volatility. On top of that, we have other economic data coming in this week, including jobs data, that will affect perhaps how the Fed looks at interest rate changes for their Wednesday, June 14th meeting. So because there's all these economic factors that may fuel change, I don't think it's likely that a pullback will go anywhere further than about 340. Okay, so 340, call it maybe 337, that range is probably good support if we even get down that far. So hopefully this helped you to see me analyze these charts as they were, untouched from 3 weeks ago. Okay, so that you can see the kinds of changes that a pro makes, so you can learn to do this in your trading. I gave you a couple of helpful techniques here, like how to find resistance levels when you're up at elevated levels, right? You just kind of follow the trail back to the left and identify the levels. You got a refresher here, for those of you who have been using trend lines, on a concept called fanning trend lines. That's a traditional technical analysis tool. I did not invent it. However, the way I use trend lines is a bit more influenced by Gann's techniques, and it just sort of slides into my trading and analysis. So there you have it. My current take on the QQQs for some correction to the downside or correction over time with a resumption by mid-June. I don't have a specific date because the advanced forecast suggests it was a wide range. That's something where you would need to let more price action unfold here, and then you could use either your basic loss forecasting or advanced loss forecasting to narrow down. Let me leave you with one comment on the RSI power zones down below. Notice where it is, guys. Just like on the weekly chart, on the daily chart, the RSI power zones are in no man's land. So they're in a great position to still move higher into the bull resistance power zone. Awesome. Well, stay on top of this. This forecast met and was very useful. So I want you to be able to continue to monitor similar ones that I make, that you make on your own. And I'll catch you next time.